Good morning, Julia.
Thank you so much indeed for joining us, Peter. You have been speaking out to the media in recent days about your concerns that the police are sort of fixated on this idea. They said repeatedly in press conferences, including yesterday, they believe that the most likely thing to have happened is that Nicola Bulley has fallen, slipped into the river, and they are searching for her body, and that no foul play has taken place. You believe that may not be the case?
Look, what I do with so many drownings every year, we average about 10 drownings and a number of suicides, Julia. And the thing is, here we've got Nicola. If she went in where that mobile phone was found that day, the police divers searched it that afternoon. I'm standing at the river now. It's very benign. This part of the river to get across is not a tidal river here. There's hardly any current here. And the police divers went in. And normally when someone drowns, they go straight to the bottom to the river and they stay there. They hardly move. Within our experience, maximum 3 or 4 meters. That has to be a really strong current because the body will just sit on the bottom. And the police divers are very professional. They've done a thorough search that day and Nicola was not there. And since then, it's been searched, and there's this stuff, albeit she's gone down to the sea. I don't believe that because that's tidal over the top of the weir. And then you've got to get over the weir, and then it's very shallow the other side of the weir.
And yes, the body would have turned up. Now, you said when you started this search, called in by the family and helping them, that you said, look, if her body is there, we will find it within hours. You're now on your 3rd day of searching?
We're on a 3rd day, Julie, and, we got a high hit rate for finding people very, very quickly. 20-odd years of experience of dealing with this. And I would like to say we are the official police dive team for the whole of the south of England. We work for the police every day, getting called in from all the forces across the southeast. So we're not amateurs. This is why we're used by the emergency services. And this baffles me. This case, I mean, the police can have their own opinion. That's fine. But this is my personal view, and I'm not trying to speculate, but I'm allowed to do that, and that's just my professional opinion in dealing with these for many, many years.
Yeah.
It's just so odd, this one.
Well, indeed, and you've said, you think that a third party could be involved on whether or not the mobile phone. The crucial things here, we've got 10 minutes where we're not accounted for. There's no CCTV. Witnesses who've been located in the area have said, yes, they saw her here, they saw her there at this time or that time. She was on a business conference call. But we've got 10 minutes which are not accounted for. And the belief is that in that time she must have fallen into the river, the police seem to think. No evidence that of any damage to that side of the river, that the side whether or not she had fallen, or her dog was found dry minutes later, and the dogs, I understand, normally if an owner falls into water, they tend to bark loudly, they stay near the owner. Yeah. Her mobile phone left on that conference call on the bench. Lots of these things don't add up. The family member, I remember hearing a family member, I think one of her sisters, saying something like, people don't just vanish into thin air. But the concern is actually, this has happened a number of times. People do get abducted, vanish into thin air. People sometimes do go missing and foul play is involved, or there has been an accident. What is your best theory then? If she didn't fall into the river, what do you think may have happened?
I've worked on so many cases. A few years ago, we had a Laura Torn in Alston Ferry near Scunthorpe. We were called in to search the river for the police, and that was actually a big police operation. And there was a shoe found by the river, her stiletto shoe. She was buried miles away in a haystack. It was a pure decoy laid by the killer. And then we talk about the dogs. 2 or 3 years ago in Ripley, that a man drowned. We were called in by the police to recover the man's body, and his dog was sitting there crying on the side of the riverbank, marking the exact spot. This is in my vast experience of working on cases, and I can tell you now, if she had gone in that river that day just down there, this is through my years of experience, bodies don't just drift away like that. The police divers, in my opinion, we would have found her, the police divers would have found her that day. I'm standing near the bench now. It's a steep bank, and why did she go near the river? She knows the area. It's just so odd, and that's just my opinion.
Yeah, indeed. I do think there is a risk, and again, I think this is obviously the concern of the family, and of course she's left her partner and two very young girls as well who've not had their mummy home for 12 days. I think our hearts go out to them. The idea that the police, when we've seen this in many other investigations over the years, they can get very fixated on one idea, right? She's in the river, that's the most likely thing. We haven't got any evidence of a dodgy man in a car or nearby or sounds of hearing anyone struggling, so we think that's what's happened, and then they get fixated on that, and although they go through the motions of doing other things like checking other CCTV and people in the area, they don't put as much effort into it as they would otherwise.
Well, I think everybody just needs to keep an open mind here, Julia. That's what it needs to be. It's not she's in the river. We don't know where she is, and I think that's probably the best thing to say. We don't know where Nicola is, and I think that's the best thing to say at the moment. I mean, if a body does go in the river, yes, it can get lodged under trees. It can get lodged under what we call strainers. We haven't got any just here. But if the body had gone over the weir and the water was higher that day, yes, it could get lodged in the reeds. I accept that, which the sonar won't find. And people appear 2 or 3 months later. But that's highly unlikely in this case, and it's getting from here to the weir is the problem. She's got to get from here to the weir.
Can I ask you about your contact with the family of Nicola Bulley? Paul, her partner, I know you've been in touch with him. How are they bearing up?
I mean, they're clearly upset at the family, and he just doesn't know where Nicola is, and it's the children. I feel sorry for as well. I mean, it's such a difficult time for everybody, and nobody wants to. We just need to find Nicola, one way or another, and bring closure.
That's the key thing. I mean, and also, I just want to ask you, I mean, not to go into the horrific details too much, and people, sitting there having breakfast with their kids perhaps this morning, but we know that there are some things that we can predict about what happens to human bodies when they fall in water, in terms of the likelihood of when they begin to float, more likely to be found if they have been at the bottom of a river. Or is it likely that if her body is in the water that actually it would float soon?
Generally, Julia, and it does vary with the body composition, so it can vary. It can be 5 days. We've had them pop up in 4 days. It could take 2 weeks, but generally at this time they'd be on the surface by now,
right? As
the body decomposes and on the surface.
How many more days are you expected to carry on your search?
With this will probably be our last day, but we're working long days here. We're working in the dark. The team are setting up now. We've been on site 7:45 this morning. It's freezing up here, and we're just doing a long day. We're not having any breaks. We're just getting on with it to try and help the police and the family, really, Julia. So we're doing the best we can. And we're doing this free of charge, by the way, so we're not actually charging the family, as I've worked on many operations helping families trying to find loved ones in the past.
Indeed, and all credit to you and your team for doing that. Look, we wish you well. Again, the awful thing is we're wishing that you don't find a body and this woman is returned to her family safe and sound. Peter Faulding, so appreciate you taking the time joining us, author of What Lies Beneath My Life, and a forensic search and rescue expert there leading that search, Nicola Bulley.